So welcome everybody to the what's the name of the podcast?
Anyways, go ahead, Big. Frank Reich. You just got fired. First year head coach.
Yeah, first year head coach. I think despite
he's technically not first year head coach.
But for the Panthers.
Yeah.
He's a proven head coach with great, with solid NFL coaching experience. And while he has not produced a consistent playoff contender team, I think that he has a lot to offer for a young quarterback, provided he has the necessary time in order to grow and develop that prospect. And I think that this move, considering that roster, was a premature move. I can see if maybe perhaps there was some differences between the, maybe the coaching staff and ownership. Yeah, sure, I can understand a move under those pretenses. However, this was an immature move. I don't like it. I think that, new first year quarterback, high overall draft pick, this could have happened to almost any coach, and I just think that it's premature, and it's indicative of how bad the Panthers organization is. I mean, those guys haven't won anything since Cam Newton's been there. And you know what? They're going to continue to lose because they're going to keep hiring and having the lack of faith and patience in what it takes to develop a prospect like a Bryce Young, because he has all the talent. He has the arm talent. He has the speed. He can make every I don't think he can make every throw, but he's certainly very, very talented. And he's an NFL quarterback. Now, whether he was NFL ready when he came into the door is, that's a matter of opinion. But I don't think that you're going to last or grow your organization or have a winning culture by firing your coach after one season. And mid-season at that, they didn't even give him a full season. So we're just beyond the midway point, and you're firing your head coach. Absolutely immature. I don't like it. This is why the Panthers organization stinks.
Nah, I agree. Yeah, premature as far as giving them an actual shot because of how bad that team is. It's just blaming the coach for how bad the team is because, let's face it, whoever they bring in next is going to have the same exact problems because they have not fixed the actual issue. But
yeah, I don't think Frank Reich is a very great coach. He hasn't really had his success on his other teams. I don't think he should be fired midway through the season. I feel like, obviously, if you're going to fire him at the end of the year until he's fully proven himself. I mean, the Panthers roster is really bad. It's kind of hard to coach a team like that. So, I mean, but a lot of coaches get fired. But I don't think he should have been fired in the middle of the year. I don't think he was doing anything that any other coach would have done with that roster.
And and to an extent I agree, and I do agree with Elmo. I don't know if he's necessarily proven anything as far as at an NFL level as a head coach. He absolutely has experience, and he's absolutely got that under his belt. Obviously, has a Super Bowl with the Eagles there, but as a head coach, I don't know if he's actually won anything. And I do want to I do feel bad. Oh. Go ahead.
It definitely could be something internal. There could be some differences between coaching in the coaching staff or in the organization itself that we don't know.
That's another thing.
Firing,
I talked about this. Frank Reich wanted C.J. Stroud. That's the guy that he wanted in the draft. The organization wanted Bryce Young, so they had that indifference. They ended up taking Bryce Young. Obviously that's tough when the head coach can't get the guy he wants. So you still have to live, right? You still have to, try to compete with who the owner or the GM gives you. And it happened to be Bryce Young. It's a tough situation because he was the number one pick. He was still projected to be in their mind, the best guy for them in that situation at that moment. I think one of Bryce Young's flaws, or I don't necessarily I didn't think this was one of his flaws, but I think a lot of people talk about this. Obviously his height, right? Not the tallest dude in the world. And the fact that he was behind that Alabama O-line, which is some of the best lineman prospects in college. So what I had seen is that people were saying that he needs an O-line to go through his progressions. He's great at going through his progressions, but it's when that time gets to him it's hard for him to make that read.
Yeah, every quarterback needs a good O-line to go through their
And and this is what I was gonna go with the general manager. It's general manager himself. Obviously, I think it's a different general manager from when they drafted a couple, obviously the past couple of years. But they drafted high. They drafted what's his name, Ickham. They drafted a tackle like top 5, top 7 or something like a couple of years ago, and it just hasn't worked out. That's not on Frank Reich, right? That's on whoever drafted him. They have that. Obviously, the talent they brought with Bryce Young, they traded DJ Moore out of there. So who's he supposed to throw it to? 96-year-old Adam Thielen?
Yeah.
They got Hayden Hurst, who's also 30 plus. Mingo's looked okay. They drafted him this year. I can't think of anybody else on that team at the moment. I just they haven't done well with bringing talent as well. But at the same time, Bryce Young's looked really bad. I haven't even seen flashes.
I think if you put a decent, I'm just saying, bare bones decent O-line in front of him and give him a couple targets, Bryce Young's a different quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. If he has got some better people up front and better targets, but I'm gonna be honest, I think that the play calling situation was all Frank Reich. I know regardless the talent's not there, the O-line's not there, but I also don't like the play calling from Frank Reich himself. So that I do agree that I don't think Frank Reich maybe should have been fired midway through the season, give him the full season and maybe an off season to work with. But at the same time, if the general manager, the owner are going to argue with the head coach on who the head coach wants, was he ever going to succeed in the first place? If he's not getting the guys that he wants, you know what I mean? And he took back the play calling role of the offense. So he was still calling. He called the offense after I think it was 1 or 2 weeks. So he took the role back, and I still didn't see anything from that offense, even little flashes. Bryce Young hasn't looked great, and yes, it could be because of the talent around him, but I also think that the play calling from Frank Reich himself wasn't great.
So I was just looking here, and I came across a tweet, and unfortunately, I can no longer find it on X, and it actually is a quote from the owner, specifically talking about one of the things you had just mentioned, and that's the issue as to whether or not Bryce Young was the coach's choice. And it was, according to the tweet, that it was a unanimous decision that Bryce Young was their guy. So
have you seen the tweet? Have you seen the tweet where they wanted to trade back to 2 because they thought the Texans they wanted to trade with the Texans. They wanted to trade back with the Texans who were at 2 to drop up to 1 because they thought that they were going to take Bryce Young. Have you seen that tweet?
No, and that's where I'm saying this is an interesting debate because you're having the owner saying one thing, and to me, unanimous to me is not the same as this is the coach's guy, right? Because it could be a unanimous between the owner and the general manager and maybe some other guys in the front office. But if the coach is saying, hey, you know what, this guy CJ is a better prospect, I think he's our guy, and you're pulling rank. That can certainly create a little bit of what Elmo said
animosity.
Is that division. Yeah, sure, absolutely. That division between coach and owner where which basically could have put him on a short leash. So, again, I disagree with the move. Frank Reich hasn't been great. He was good with the Eagles. I saw a lot of development with the Jalen Hurts while he was there. And I think that he could have worked with, even as just having an offensive-minded head coach there, he could have really helped at least the development of that young quarterback. And I know that even with C.J. Stroud, this was one of the concerns that they have is, do you have the personnel around him in order to develop it? And you know what? They do. And I think that Frank White, if he wasn't the guy at the end of the season, there could have been a sort of a transition. Now he's got to go into games, having probably to learn a whole new style of how the coach calls the game, and that can certainly, affect his growth.
I can't remember. I just remember seeing Jim Caldwell's name. I don't know if he's their pass game coordinator. I just remember I seen something about Jim Caldwell. I know he's with the organization. I'm not sure if he's going to be stepping up to be the new OC at the moment. He's not going to be the interim head coach, but I think he's going to be the new OC. If I remember correctly. Right. I'm going to look it up just to make sure, but I remember seeing Jim Caldwell's name. And senior assistant Jim Caldwell will be special advisor to the offensive coordinator Thomas Brown. So he's not going to be the OC. It looks like Thomas Brown, who took over some of the play calling duties earlier in the year, will be the OC, but Jim Caldwell will be kind of helping him along with that. And Jim Caldwell's got some years on him. He's a veteran coach. But overall, do you guys think this firing hurts or helps Bryce Young?
I'm sure it hurts him. I mean, it's obviously going to hurt the whole team when you're bouncing around head coaches like that.
But it will say they, then obviously this is probably not going to happen because it's so hard to find these type of guys. Say they mess around and find the next Mike McDaniel, right? Offensive guy that comes from a very popular system, and he's able to make something great as far as offensive schemes go. Like, do you think that helps Bryce Young if they do that?
Well, yeah, it can help him like that. Mm-hmm. But so far, like in a lot of teams, it's like just bouncing head coaches every year. And I mean, obviously, they can find a coach that can stick around and do good on the organization, but a lot of times they don't get that.
Oh, a lot of the
unless
time,
they get a guy from a good organization that's ready to become a head coach. Not just kind of thrown into it because someone gave him a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Miss, what do you think? Helps or hurts?
Definitely does help him. We'll see if it hurts him or if things stay about the same. But yeah, it's definitely much more likely to hurt him than help him, I think.
I'll let Big go last. I think it does hurt him for this year, but I think throughout his career, it might actually help him. Again, it kind of depends on who they pick up after this. But I think for this year, it hurts him because it's almost like a throwaway year. And obviously, a rookie year is supposed to, you're supposed to try to progress to become an NFL, especially a quarterback. You want to try to progress and become an NFL player. You're basically getting your first year thrown out the window. So his rookie year is going to really be next year, which sucks for his progression. But I think if he gets the right coach and they start getting some talent around him, I think it could help him eventually.
That's assuming they don't get the number one overall pick and go after Williams.
They can't. They traded it to the Bears.
Okay, all right.
They're stuck with Young for at least, if he continues the way he's going, he's stuck with him for at least one more year.
Okay. I rest my case.
And you know what's crazy? I don't know if we'll go too much into this. I don't think they needed to trade DJ Moore to get that first pick. I kind of feel like the Bears fleeced the Panthers. I don't think they needed the DJ Moore to be thrown in there. I feel like DJ Moore would have really helped Bryce Young this year, but
I agree. And I like Thielen, but I think that if he had Thielen along with DJ Moore, along with a solid tight end, I think we could have, he could have made some noise.
Mm-hmm. I just think I just in this kind of this makes me kind of question the Panthers like ownership at this point, like with all the stuff I'm kind of hearing. So I don't know. It's a new owner, obviously, new owner, new all that kind of stuff. We'll have to see how it goes the next couple of years. But man, it's not looking too hot.
No, it's not.
Well, that's all I had to kind of say about Frank Reich. Do you guys feel like we'll say this is the last question I really have. Do you guys feel like he finds a way to be a new head coach for a different team?
No.
I'm with you.
I think he gets picked up as obviously a assistant coach of some sort.
Coordinator or something. No.
Yeah.
Coordinator or
as offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe he wants to take a year off or something too. I mean, that could help refresh him. I just want to go into the Thanksgiving games and basically, what did you learn? You can talk about a player, you can talk about a team, you can talk about a game itself. You can talk about anything you want. What did you learn from the Thanksgiving games, positive or negative?
I'll let someone else start. I'm gonna need to think.
My thought is, and while it pains me to say this, is that the Cowboys offense is on a historical pace. And those guys, they are humming right now like a well-oiled machine. And, I don't want to see those guys in a playoff game as an Eagles fan, to be quite honest.
Well, you won't have to because you guys get a first-round bye.
Yeah, I mean, assuming, if let's see, if we lose to the 49, well, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but just to keep it short, that's, McCarthy really. I don't know that Dak is changing the plays or doing anything of that nature, but McCarthy certainly has this offense humming, and it seems like every week that offense is prepared. I have to honestly say that, and CeeDee Lamb is the best slot cornerback. I mean, receiver.
Cornerback.
He's the best slot in football.
The Cowboys are weird because their offense plays really well against teams that defenses are not the greatest, and it makes sense. I mean, obviously the Cowboys have a high rolling offense; they roll off momentum, and they play these mediocre defenses, and then they get big numbers. But when they play these more tougher defenses, those numbers cease to be on the same page. So it's hard to talk about the Cowboys until they really face some really hard people on their schedule to see if their offense really is as good as these other teams.
I don't think the Commanders' defense is that bad. Obviously, I don't know how they have too much pass rush anymore, getting rid of their two guys. But they were able to put up 45, and like you said, they're opportunistic. You know, they got some good lucky shots. Ron Bland got his record-breaking pick six. So I don't know. I feel like this is one of the better defenses they played.
That's why I said the Cowboys roll off momentum. Like if the Cowboys get going, they stay going.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But if you hit them, if they hit against a brick wall, then it's almost like they stop rolling like that.
So, in my opinion, when I mentioned the schedule, I think that the schedule has a lot to do with placement of games. The NFL strategically placed games. Excuse me, my nose is itching. In positions that I think is very favorable for the Cowboys. For an example, the Cowboys rarely, unless it's a division game, they rarely travel to see a tough team. Right, I believe they play the Ravens this year, if I'm not mistaken.
They don't play the Ravens this year.
Okay.
They're going to Buffalo and Miami this year, back to back.
Okay. Well, I mean, Buffalo. I don't think Buffalo is historically a really difficult place to play, but I know Miami can be very tough to play, place to play in. But it's still a really, relatively, fair weather place to play. I just don't think
snowing in Buffalo.
Yeah, I was gonna say it might be snowing December 17th is the Buffalo game.
Well, I mean, hey, that is very possible. But Buffalo is one of those places where because they get snow, they respect snow, so they're really good at handling snow. If it snows in Buffalo, streets is clear the next day. And I know this because I visited Buffalo and I went to school for not far from Buffalo. So, they can have 2-3 feet of snow in the next, the next day or so. The roads are relatively clear. So,
Well, it's because snow plows. But
yeah,
about a football field, they can't run a snow plow through the football field every quarter.
What I've learned is that I do not trust the Lions anymore. That's what I've learned.
Oh boy. Okay. All right.
I don't trust the Lions anymore. These, as far as like where they're going, I watched them beat a Bears team, barely, and I watched them lose to this Packers team, which I don't think is very good. I didn't think they were very good. Like after week 3, I don't know if I trust them. I like the talent they have. I like their coaching, but I don't know if they're gonna be able to win a playoff game. I obviously it's the regular season. I keep going to the playoffs. But after what I keep seeing, I haven't seen them beat a good team either. Similar to the Cowboys. Like, I haven't seen them, I'm sure they have beat a 500 team, but it couldn't have been a very good 500 team. Because when I watched them play the Ravens, we blew them out. And I just watched them lose to the Packers. I just don't know if they're inconsistent or what, or like what's going on with that team. Maybe they thought that they were going to blow out this team on a Thanksgiving Day, or maybe the Packers just came out to play on Thanksgiving. I have no clue. But for these past 2 weeks, I haven't liked Lions football. And I like Jared Goff, so I want to say that first. But maybe we're overrating him a little bit. I think maybe he's not a top 10 quarterback. I think when I look at him, I think he's bottom of top 10, but I feel like he's very well in the conversation of top 10. Maybe he's a middle of the packed quarterback when it comes to like just ranking them overall.
I want to say the Lions are in the same tier as the Jaguars. Like they're a good team, but like they're not as good as you think they are.
Right.
Like you hold them in high ranks, and then all of a sudden they play like a good team, and then they kind of get exposed for like how undermined they are. Kind of like how when the Jaguars played the 49ers. Like I thought it was going to be a good game, and it just wasn't.
I actually like this. I actually like this take a lot. I wasn't even thinking about anything like that. I actually like that a lot. I had the Lions up as like a Super Bowl contender. But after what I've been seeing, I think I agree. I think they're where the Jaguars are. Like we're talking dark horse candidate. Like super dark horse candidate.
Yeah. Just like that when the Lions played the Baltimore Ravens and got exposed bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like you think there's gonna be a good game, and all of a sudden, like Ravens are ready to play, and they weren't.
Who was their other loss to? They beat a Packers team, or not a Packers. They beat a Chargers team, which is the worst team in the West. They beat a Raiders team, changed coaches. They beat a Bucks team, which is a middle of the road. They beat a Panthers team. They beat the Packers, the Falcons. They lost to the Seahawks. They did beat the Chiefs, but that was week 1. Again, I tried not to take too much into account week 1. They beat the Chiefs by 1. But yeah, I don't know if they have a quality win. I mean, if you want to say Chiefs week 1 quality win, you could say that. I won't disagree because I know it was week 1, but at the same time, it is still the Chiefs. So I can get that, but that was week 1. We're in what, week 13 now?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know if I trust the Lions anymore. And I believe they were a very good team. I thought they had Super Bowl aspirations. I really did. You'll say something, Vince, or are you just gonna watch us?
I don't have much to say on the games you mentioned, other than and we've kind of harped on it last week a little bit, and just like being in Xbox parties and stuff. But like, yeah, the Commanders are just shooting themselves in the foot with the trades they've made. But like, they have players or had players that you can compete. I'm not going to say win a Super Bowl or go that far or anything, but you have solid defensive players that can get your defense to become a competitive team, and you trade it all away. But
you know what? And I kind of understand what the Commanders were thinking as far as like maybe this isn't their timeline. You know what I mean? They got the Eagles, best team in the league. They got the Cowboys, who are playing very well. Maybe they're thinking like this isn't their time. So why pay Montez Sweat? Why pay Chase Young all this money if we don't think we're going to be able to get past those teams in our own division? Maybe they're looking towards the future with those kind of moves. Because yeah, and you said that. Yeah, kind of like a rebuild. They have the quarterback that they like. Maybe they'll just try to retool, rebuild a little bit. And also, Vince, you said that you don't think those players make them a Super Bowl contender. Then why keep them? You know what I mean?
You can get close, awfully close, closer than most people would. Probably
But most teams aren't looking for close, are they? They're looking for the ring on their finger.
Close only count for horseshoes and hand grenades, dude.
Yeah.
Not to go all the way. No gun.
Yeah, not their time, so they're wanting to build for the future. But did they even get that high of draft picks for those people they did trade? Like, did they even get?
Well, no. It's not just that. Is that they're also having that cap to be able to sign people in the future too? Because you saw not Josh Sweat. You saw Montez Sweat's contract. It's big. We're gonna see Chase Young's contract be big, regardless if he signs with the Niners or wherever team. They're saving so much money by not signing those two. Personally, I would have traded one, kept the one I liked more, and signed him. Because an edge rusher is a little hard to find, and I feel like they had two that were. Maybe that probably going to be the best edge rusher on their team for a while. So maybe I would have signed one, but maybe they just didn't feel like they had that number one edge rusher on their team.
I'm fine with them getting rid of Montez Sweat. I feel like the last few seasons he's been kind of a second tier, if that's even a thing. Pass rusher. He has not been amongst the elite pass rushers, and to justify the contract, to me it just doesn't make sense. That's a player that you can move on from. But then you have to ask yourself, has Chase Young provided you with that confidence that he's that guy moving forward? And I would say no, he hasn't. So you know what? Did he need to be across from a guy like Nick Bosa? Maybe. I don't know what his numbers are like in San Francisco.
He's doing pretty well on the Niners right now. So.
Well, I would hope so. being the second pass rusher on that team with Bosa and obviously having Hargrave and those guys up the middle, I feel like all those guys should be eating right now.
Oh no, yeah, no. We've ever since we signed Chase Young, we've had like really good pass rush,
and that's how it should be.
The last 3 games.
But yeah, as for just going back to the Commanders, I just think that they're looking for the future. That's why they made those moves. I actually like the corner that they drafted. I like Bryn Forbes a lot. I mean, he got cooked. He got cooked by AJ Brown a couple weeks ago. But I like Bryn Forbes. I think that they're going to slowly draft and start building some of this stuff up. They might not have other teams' first-round picks, but they still have their own first-round pick, and they don't have to draft another quarterback because they got the guy they believe in. So, they can progress a little bit. I feel like they're in a better situation than the Panthers are. Obviously, we talked about them earlier.
I don't think anyone would fight you on that. I don't think there's anyone in the league in a worse position than the Panthers. But
anyways, yeah, Jags and Texans game. I think my personal feeling about it is that whoever won this game was going to win the division. The Jags ended up winning by a field goal. There was, as Matt would say, there was a lot of BS going on with some flags. I didn't think so necessarily. But what did you guys think about the Jags-Texans game, and will the Jags hold on to this division?
What was that second part of the question?
I think they will.
Will the Jags hold on to the division?
I believe so, yes.
Personally, I don't know. Yeah. I don't actually know. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know because I look at the Texans schedule and it's very favorable. The Jags schedule is not super bad, but they still play playoff teams. Like they'll be playing teams that'll be in the playoffs. They play the Ravens. That's not what I can think of right now, but I know that they play more. They play a couple playoff teams, and the Texans, I don't think they play any the rest of the way, unless the Colts somehow make it or something like that. So it's looking very favorable for the Texans. The Jags have to keep winning. They obviously have the tiebreaker. Well, do they? Because I know they lost the first game. I guess I don't know. They might have the tiebreaker, so it might not be too bad. But they do have the a couple 2-game lead, so that helps.
Well, Texans, even if Jags do win the division, they obviously still have a chance to make playoffs. But the thing is, they'll have to beat the Colts either on record or physically beat them because as of right now, obviously Colts have the tiebreaker over them. But
well, I want to get into the Colts, but I don't want to get to the Colts right now. I just want to know, like, will the Jags hold on to the division? And what do you guys think of the game personally? Like, did any of you guys watch the game?
No, I didn't.
You said the Colts versus the Jags.
No, I don't want to get to the Colts right now. Vince was waiting for this. I can tell.
What was the game you said that we watched? I'm sorry.
Texans Jags.
I did not watch it. I did listen to it, and again, it was more or less. I thought where it counted down the stretch, the quarterback play kind of, in my opinion, could have been a difference maker. I'm not going to say whether or not he played good or bad, but I think that could have been a difference maker.
I will say this. I think C.J. Stroud actually played very well. He did miss some big throws actually in the fourth quarter though. He made the right read on the receiver. He just missed him. I think it was 2 plays I can remember where he just flat out missed him on that fourth down. He hit a streak on the sideline which was open. The guy was beating him by a couple yards. He just overthrew him, and then ended up losing them the game.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to make a too big of a deal, but something people do like to talk about is with CJ being a rookie, you don't play obviously as many games in college as you do in the NFL, especially with them adding that extra season game last year. Do you think that when we get to week 15, 16, 17, do you think Stroud slows down because he's not used to playing that many games, or?
They probably practice this kind of stuff and talked about this kind of stuff with him. I'm sure he'll be okay as far as production goes. But I do think he's playing over expectation, and I feel like that will come down a little bit to the back half. Not because he hasn't played that many games in college. I don't think that's gonna be why. No, I think that it was an entertaining game. If Matt was here, he'd blame the refs. But I feel like every game this year was. Not every game this year.
Yeah,
every game this week was just a ref ball. I don't know. I think we've talked about this before. I think everybody realizes the refs just aren't good.
I think this, or without saying it, they're going on strike again. They're going on strike.
Good. Screw it. Give me the replacements. They can't be any worse. That's how I'm looking at it. No, I don't know what's up with the reffing. They need to fine them. They should start fining them. We talked about this. Just fine the refs for bad calls, and it'll prevent them from making bad calls. Well, it won't prevent them, but it'll slow it down a little bit, I would think. But yeah, so if you guys have nothing else to say about the Texans-Jags game, I'll just say that I think the Jags and the Texans are very close as far as like team goes. I think Trevor Lawrence is willing to put his body on the line, which can be scary because he's the quarterback for the team. But I think he's played well when he needs to. I don't think he played fantastic against the Texans. I really don't. I think he made some mistakes I didn't like. Other side of the ball, I think CJ Stroud used his legs a lot more this game than I've seen him all year long. I feel like he was running around a lot, making a lot of time for himself.
I guess I should have mentioned this when I asked, like, going into extra games that you don't have in college, because we've talked about CJ Stroud, how many pass attempts he has. So that plays into it, like him throwing out his arm, even though I doubt that will happen. It's mainly if you have that many pass attempts, you have the ball a lot. So obviously that's going to up the chance of you getting injured or how many times you get hit if you have the ball in your hand that often. But
well, what scares me about the Texans is their lack of run game.
mm-hmm.
They just haven't been able to run very well, and when it comes to playoff, or not even just playoff, December football alone, when it comes to December football alone, you need to be able to run the ball at least a little bit. And they just haven't shown me that they're committed and want to. So we'll see how that affects them. But yeah, I think CJ will be good. I think CJ will be fine. I really do. I think he'll be fine. Will the team be fine? I don't know. We're going to have to see. Anything else to say on the Jags and Texans? Because if not, I do want to get into the Colts real quick. Not a whole segment about the Colts. Just want to kind of talk about them because they have the same record as the Texans right now. And they're only a game or two back from the Jags. I think it's 2 games. I think they're both 2 games back, the Texans and the Colts.
Sounds about right.
So I'm kind
of...
Yeah, and I talked about this. Do you guys think that the Colts might be a playoff team? As crazy as that may sound.
It'd have to be wild card, but it's possible.
Oh, no, it's definitely wild card. I don't see them winning the division. Texans have a chance at the division. I don't think the Colts have a chance at the division. But they play the Titans, who haven't looked fantastic. They play the Bengals without Joe Burrow. Steelers is a bit tougher because, that defense, and they got a new OC. The Falcons might be a playoff team. The Raiders have played better when they fired their coach. And then they play the Texans week 17. I think that game, that could be for a playoff spot, right? The Texans-Colts game, the end of the year. Do they have a chance?
I think the Colts are. I don't think the Colts are a playoff team, but they could sneak in there. I don't see them making it anywhere past the first round, but I don't think they might slip in there, but I still don't think they're a playoff team.
And if they're a playoff team, I feel like Shane Steichen's got to be looked at for a coach of the year. I don't think he should win it. I'm just saying he should be looked at it, right? With what he's got at QB, not being a QB1.
No QB running back hasn't been.
I don't say no QB. Gardner Minshew's a veteran.
He's got like 7 or 8 picks and then 4 lost fumbles. Even though you and me talk like, oh, it seems like he doesn't turn the ball over, but nah. Actually, going into it, they showed a stat this past week. We're 4-0 when he does not turn the ball over. With him as a quarterback, 4-0. When he has 1 turnover, I think it's 2-1, maybe 2-2. But when he has 3 or more, it's like 1-3 or something like that. When he turns the ball over a lot, we lose. But yeah.
I mean, that's most teams though. It's not just the Colts.
That's how it generally goes. But it's basically the fact that when he doesn't turn the ball over, we're 4-0. It's nice, but.
I just want to say I think the Colts do have a chance. It's going to be hard because I think that their competition for the bottom, the seeds are going to be the Bills, the Broncos, the Texans.
I think they definitely have a chance. Like
the Steelers.
I don't want to say. I'll clarify. I think Texans have a better chance of beating the Colts this time around than the Colts do at beating them again. However, like Colts already beat them once this year, and it was similar situation. Like the quarterback position was not set then either. Literally, Richardson got hurt that game. Jonathan Taylor was still out at that point, and we still beat them. But
I think the Colts have a chance. That's all I wanted to say. I think the Colts have a chance. I was curious what you guys thought about it. They have a chance.
Just making sure they have a good chance in my mind.
Bills and Eagles is probably our last overview of Week 12, and we'll go into Week 13 after this. But Bills and Eagles, it was probably my game of the week. I think it was everybody's game of the week. First thing, I want to talk about the Bills. I know they lost, but I want to talk about the Bills because I know it's a shorter conversation. Are the Bills back? Like, back to where that I feel like they kind of expect to be? I know they didn't win, but I feel like they're playing much better than what we saw that losing streak.
Well, you asked the same question last week, and I said.
Well, this is because this is a much tougher opponent.
I ended it with. I'm not going to say they're back after one win, 1 week. I'm not going to say that, but yeah, they had a very competitive game. They won into overtime, but yeah, very competitive against probably the best team in football. So, yeah, I'm still hesitant to say yes completely, but I'm obviously much more obligated to after this past week. But
so yes or no though? What is your final statement on it? What does your gut tell you?
So inconsistent is what makes it hard too, but I'll lean towards yes, I guess.
Okay. I want you to go last here because for obvious reasons. Go ahead, are they back?
I think the Bills knew they had to step up their game if they're able to compete with the Eagles coming into the week, and I feel like they did well with that. And I feel like the Bills finally knew that they weren't the better team coming into this, and I feel like that kind of maybe motivated them to play better, or instead of like undermining the games that they play. Are they back? I don't know. I would really have to see if they come out and play like that against the next opponent.
But it might not even be a good opponent.
I don't know. It's not an answer. You need a yes or a no for Dwight.
Well, I would like a yes or no. And their next opponent, just so you guys know, their next opponent, they play the Chiefs, the Cowboys, and then the Chargers. So,
dude, that's gonna be the real thing. If they come back and they play that well against the Chiefs, then yeah, they're back.
I think those are three.
Chiefs expose them, then I don't think they are.
Go ahead, Big. What were you gonna say?
It's hard to tell if they're back or not off of one game because
2 games.
Obviously, like bad teams can. Well, who did they play before week?
They played the Jets. They beat up on the Jets actually.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's a good defense though. You weren't here. Yeah, we talked about this last week. Yeah, we talked about the Bills and the Jets last week. Yeah, but the Jets is a good defense.
Yeah.
You can't forget the Jets defense.
But the Bills have a good offense.
I think that.
But
I'm going to go against the grain, and I'm going to say they are absolutely back.
Right on.
The Bills did something that they are not known for last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles defense is not a pushover per se, but they're a more bend but don't break sort of defense. And I think that there was times where the Eagles had them dead to rights. And generally speaking, watching previous films of Josh Allen is that when he's dead to rights, he tries to use his arm to get himself out of a jam. And we all know how that turns out. It's usually an interception or a turnover. But he didn't make those mistakes against Philadelphia. The guy came out, he balled, he absolutely made the read. He was delivering the ball on time in a lot of scenarios. And you know what? I thought the offense was rolling. He did miss some passes, which every quarterback misses passes. He did miss some, he wasn't on the same page in overtime, which potentially could have iced that game for Buffalo. But you can't blame Josh Allen for that. He protected the football. He used his legs. And if he comes out week in, week out like that and protects the football, that team can be a team that you may see back in Philadelphia. I'm sorry, you will not see them back in Philadelphia, but you could see a potential rematch.
In Vegas?
Yeah, potentially. Because I think that team, if they play the way that they played against Philip, they can beat the Chiefs. If they play like that, they can beat the Texans. That team, if they come out and they put up points and they move the ball like they did against Philadelphia, they can beat. I'm not gonna say they can beat the Ravens, but it will be a very, very difficult time for any of those NFC teams, and certainly those teams on the schedule are all winnable games. The Cowboys, I think they can beat if they play well. That's going to be in Buffalo. That Kansas City game, I believe you also said it's going to be in Buffalo.
Oh, I don't remember.
I just think that they played well, and I was actually impressed. Of all the teams that the Eagles faced this year, I thought offensively that was the most well-rounded team. The tight end is a beast. He is a beast. They got some nice sized guys. They got Latavius Murray's a little over the hill. I don't know why that dude is still on the NFL roster, but you know what? Hell, that other kid is a beast. The other running back, they're just a solid team all around, and I like their coach. I like the way he coaches, and I like the tenacity of the defense when they're all healthy.
I'm with you. I think they are back. I don't think it matters. I actually don't think they make the playoffs. After this loss to the Eagles, I feel like their backs were against the wall, like Elmo said. They needed to step up and play to the level that they're used to playing. And I feel like they'll continue to play like that the rest of the year. I just don't see how they're going to be able to get some of these wins against the Chiefs. I feel like the Chiefs are going to be fighting because they want the number 1 seed, right? They got to start winning these games as well. I just feel like I just don't see the Bills winning enough games to get in the playoffs. Because they have a tough schedule, as I named. Those are not easy games necessarily. I just feel like they're gonna be fighting some other teams for that last playoff spot, and I feel like they will miss it regardless of how they're playing. But I do think that they're back. I think Josh Allen, like you said, but Josh Allen's played phenomenal all year long. I think that defense has been playing much better, and that's the part that's I think helping out the Bills and getting these, playing well and getting these wins. I will say Josh Allen has turned the ball over in 8 straight games. He needs to stop doing that, because that's also hurting the team a little bit. I feel like the Bills could have won this game, obviously, if they didn't have the miscommunication. But throwing that pick was big time, too. James Bradbury, that's a momentum shift, don't you think?
Absolutely.
So, I don't know.
I mean, not focusing on the past, but just sticking with the question here at hand is whether they're back. Let's we're going to move on, but I'm going to end it off by saying absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're going to win at least 2 of those 3 games that we just talked about. And they're going to be back right in the hunt, fighting for the top of that division.
I don't know about the division.
Hey, look, they have the Patriot. Who's going to beat them?
Dolphins. They got 2-game lead.
Well, yeah. Then I rest my case.
I just don't feel like the Dolphins. I mean, the Dolphins also play the Cowboys, so I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a bit tougher for them to get the division. I feel like they definitely are in the hunt. I feel like it'll be a bit tougher because their schedule's not... I feel like this Chiefs game will teach us a lot, actually. I feel like this coming week will teach us a lot as far as, like, the Bills going to be a playoff team and all that. But yeah, big real quick, that's on your Eagles. Good comeback win. You guys weren't playing great in the first half, like usual. You guys played much better in the second half, like usual. How'd you feel?
I think Brian Johnson needs to get these guys going early in the game instead of waiting for the second half. I thought the play calling was abysmal. I don't even know what that word means, but I'm going to use it. It was abysmal, and Jalen, I think he was a little confused as to what he was seeing, maybe in that first half, and he didn't like the separation, or I don't know exactly what was going on. He didn't speak to it because he doesn't like to answer questions about that, particularly when they win the game. But the first half I started out by listening to the game. I wasn't watching it. I was listening to it on the radio because I wanted to hear the Eagles home broadcast this particular week. So initially I wasn't watching it, but I can kind of gather from listening to the broadcast was that Jalen wasn't confident and what his eyes was seeing. And McDermott is he's from that tree with Steve Spagnuolo. And and as you can recall, if you actually watched, I know Dwight watched the Kansas City and the Philadelphia game, and I think some of these exotic blitz and defensive packages tend to give Jalen Hurts a little bit of a fit until he has the opportunity to kind of process it during halftime, and he can't start every game like that. And I don't expect the Niners to come out like that. So I think, we may see a different Jalen Hurts in the first half because they don't do a bunch of, they line up and play football, grown man style. They don't try to confuse you. So I'm certainly looking forward to that. And I'm just glad that the Eagles got that W. Go Birds!
No, I think it's gonna be a good game for sure. I mean, you guys want to go into it? You guys want to talk about the Niners and Eagles game? It's a week 13 game. I know usually we don't do this, talk about a game more in depth, but I feel like this, if we're going to, this is going to be the game to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Emma, how you feeling?
Okay, what?
Yeah, how you feeling? Niners fan, how you feeling about this Eagles game?
I feel like we've been playing really well. I feel like we've played some good teams, and we've shown just how good our team is. And I feel like if we're ready as we'll ever be, if we're going to play the Eagles.
How do you see the game going?
I feel like we have a good chance. We have a good chance. I know the Eagles are obviously the best team in football right now.
The Niners aren't no slouch. Are they not no slouches though? I think a lot of us have them top 3.
No. Oh yeah, I'm just saying. I'm just saying, as in obviously record wise and stuff, the Eagles are the team to beat.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like on our 3-game stretch, after our losses, I feel like we've played some really good football, and I feel like we're ready.
All right. Okay, Vince, you non-biased here. What do you think?
Again, I said this I think 2 weeks ago. Only problem I see is how do the Eagles defense guard both Kittle and McCaffrey? Like, they have Slay on the outside, but yeah. That's the only thing I'm interested in seeing, basically, is whether they can guard them both with basically just linebackers and maybe a safety over the top. But anyway, I think it's going to be a good, hard-fought game, and I'm interested to watch it.
I feel like we'll see a lot of Byard on Kittle, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I see Byard in man coverage a lot.
I think the Eagles will do a really good job stopping Chris McCaffrey in the run game, because the Eagles do have a really good run defense. I feel like Brock Purdy's going to have to throw the ball more, and I know the Eagles' pass rush is really good, but we do have Trent Williams back, and I feel like I know the Eagles' pass defense isn't the greatest, and I feel like the 49ers are just going to have to try to expose that. Mostly, I feel like we're not going to get much on the run game.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we're going to have to more.
Sorry. Were you done? I'll wait until you're done. Keep going.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I was talking, like, when I said Kittle and CMC, like, can they stop both? I meant in the past game, because CMC is probably the best receiving back in football right now. The only one that comes close is probably Eckler or Kamara. But anyway, the linebackers they have, can they guard Kittle while still locking up CMC? I was highly skeptical with that, but...
Oh, how is Lane doing?
I think Lane could have gone, but I think that they pretty much held him out to make sure that he was going to be healthy for this week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've seen he was on MR. They did an MRI, and he had like a day-to-day kind of practice.
Yeah, to be honest, a greater concern of mine is that when you play these games and these soak bowls or whatever you want to call them, you tend to lose a lot of players. I mean, last week alone we lost Zach Cunningham. I think Nick Morrow went out for a period of time. Jalen Carter went down for a few plays. Fletcher Cox, it's a huge loss. He may actually be there to play against the 49ers, which, really could potentially affect how effectively we are in the run game, especially with how diverse the 49ers are. As far as locking up Kittle, I mean, unless the guy's unhealthy, can you really ever lock Kittle up? No, I don't think you can. I think, the most important thing you can do with Kittle is not get caught in situations as to where he's where he gets behind you. But I think that there was a few things that we saw in previous games against the 49ers, which shows that they're not superhuman. That Browns game, when you pressure Brock Purdy and you actually hit him, and throw the timing off on those plays, because all those plays that they run are very, very time oriented. And I don't see Brock Purdy changing the plays. He's coming out and he's running with the coach's calls, and that's fine. I'm not trying to, negate anything he's done. He's had a great year, and he's really good at, getting to the ball to the open guy. But I think that if the Eagles can disrupt that a little bit, and they're gonna have to bring pressure. You're gonna have to, you don't want to live and die by the pressure, but that's something that the Eagles don't do a lot. And when you play that much zone, you can, find yourself getting dotted, as they say.
Do you think they will bring the pressure? The pressure?
I think they will dial up the blitz in certain situations, but let's be honest here. We're going to see a different 49ers team. They have what, 10 days to prepare for the Eagles? They have a really long, they have a lot of preparation time, and I just knowing the coach, he's going to bring some things that the Eagles haven't seen before, and the concepts don't usually change. What changes is the formations and the looks. So I think that if, and I love Kyle Shanahan, but I think that he either is going to kill you or he's going to kill himself. Because, he's either going to outsmart himself. And a lot of times when the Niners do lose, I think him outsmarting himself has a lot to do with it.
Real quick, Elmo, was Trent Williams, did he play the full game against the Browns?
He went down for a couple of plays on a I think a ankle or a foot injury. He wasn't 100% on the Browns, and that's why he was out the next 2 weeks.
I was gonna say, I feel like the Trent Williams thing was huge. When you were talking about pressure, I think you were right. I think getting pressure to him is a big thing, like most quarterbacks.
No, it is. It was the pressure. I feel like with Brock Purdy, I feel like not having Trent Williams on his blind side was really throwing off his timing and all that. Because obviously, if you have a dude like Trent Williams on your blind spot, you're not really worrying about that side of the field, And I feel like that gave him the relief that he can actually think in there and make his reads about the worrying about getting hit.
The one thing so if we're talking about that, and I think this happened last year as well, which is one of the things that the 49ers do, and in some cases they do it very well. On the side opposite of Trent Williams, they tend to use a tight end over there a lot. And that's what got Brock Purdy knocked out the game against the Eagles. You cannot have a tight end blocking the Eagles' best pass rusher. But I would assume that he would learn from that mistake, and I assume that he's going to come prepared, because the Eagles don't do like what's the Cowboys do and try to create matchups with the defensive linemen. They may run some stunts, but exactly where Hassan Reddick is going to be. Exactly where Sweat is going to be. And you know what? You just got to block them up. And I think that, if they're able to do that and the Eagles aren't bringing pressure and they're not affecting Purdy, it could potentially be a tough day. But I also think that the Eagles, because of the style of how they play and how they hold the football, I think that if they get a lead on the 49ers, I think the game is going to be over fairly quick. If the 49ers gets a lead on the Eagles, I think it can get ugly. I don't, and that's just, because the Eagles, the 49ers don't, when they score, they generally scoring relatively fast. Boom, boom, boom. Their plays are pretty fast, and their pace is relatively fast. Whereas the Eagles is slow and methodical, and they'll go for it on fourth down, and they'll gamble. They'll do all sorts of unconventional things. And I think that if we see a situation where, Brock Purdy makes a mistake and they go down, I think that the game is gonna not be good for the 49ers. But if the 49ers gets up by like say 14, that defense ain't gonna surrender like everybody else has.
I hear you. You guys have anything else to say, or do you guys want to get into the game pick?
I'm ready to move on.
Okay, well, hold on. Who do you think is gonna win then, Vince? We'll start with you. Eagles, Niners.
Eagles.
I'm gonna go with the Niners, not because I think they're the better team. I just feel like every player on that team that was at least played there last year has it circled on their calendar. They're treating this like a win or go home game, even though it's just a regular season game. I feel like they're gonna go all out. I feel like you're right. The coach is gonna call something up that we've never seen before. I feel like we're gonna see a super motivated team just because they want to be like, oh, we could have won that game last year if we had our quarterback. I think where it's going to be really interesting is the playoff game. I feel like that's going to be much more telling as far as, because I'm sure we'll see these two teams in the playoffs, and that's what I want to see. But as far as this regular season games go, as far as this game goes, I think it's Niners. I think they're just going to play harder, even though it's a regular season game. It means more to them. Do we have to ask you guys?
I'm
or
going Niners.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Totally biased.
You think Niners?
Yeah.
How you feel? Like close game?
Niners, man.
Close game, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think it'll be a close game.
Um,
I don't think we're gonna blow them out or anything. No, I think their defense is too good for that.
Yeah, once Dwight said Niners, that basically guaranteed us a tied in votes. Excuse me.
I'm taking the Eagles by a touchdown. The reason why is the X factor that the 49ers aren't counting for. And that being a home game in late November, 17 degrees, and in the rain. And I think with the Eagles having just played 2 other games under those conditions, listen, I'm sorry. You can fake the ball a million times, because that's what the 49ers do. They do a lot of misdirection, but eventually you fake it too many times, you're going to slip. It's going to slip out of your hand one time. And I think that was one of the factors that really allowed the outside of the late kick that was missed in that Browns game. I also thought that was a factor. I also do not think the 49ers have a reliable kicker in those conditions. And
We don't have a reliable kicker in the regular conditions.
That's true. I agree with the kicker. I didn't even think about the kicker. I think Jake Elliott, he showed that he can be money in the weather.
No, Jake Elliott's a way better kicker than Moody.
Better Jake?
Better Jake.
I got the better Jake. I don't know. It should be a good game. I think it's a 1 o'clock. Let me see.
It's a 4:25 game.
It's a mid game.
Oh yeah.
Why did they flex this? This would be like the perfect flex game.
Because see, it's a couple of things, right? The game I believe should have been at 1 o'clock, but then that would have put the 49ers at a disadvantage. And had they lost, no offense to you, Elmo, that'd give Debo Samuel something else to cry about.
Because the Sunday night game is the Chiefs and Packers.
All right. It's going to be a good matchup. I mean, I think what Greenlaw's back, right? Greenlaw's back. You know, you got Trent.
Greenlaw's been back. Trent's back. Debo's back.
Yeah, you got Trent. You got Debo.
Oh, it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, I think Stolen Hands Debo is going to show up.
Me saying it's going to be a great game is usually a curse for one of you guys. So I'm sorry when one of your team gets blown out by 20.
If the Eagles, the one guy that I fear on the 49ers, I absolutely fear this man, is Christian McCaffrey. Nobody runs a wheel route or an angle route like that guy, man. And you know, when they get that you know, because they used to run it when they were with the Commanders, where they get everybody bunched up and the quarterback goes one way and the guy leaks out in the back end and he's wide open. And you're like, man, who's supposed to cover that guy? Yeah,
you gotta be careful with that too, because last week against the Seahawks, we ran obviously a fake Chris McCaffrey handoff and end around a Debo. We had the whole defense chasing Chris McCaffrey because they were so afraid that Chris McCaffrey was going to run the ball through their faces that they weren't worried about Debo running the freaking the cross behind the quarterback. You know.
Yeah, no, it's certainly going to be there's going to be a lot of wrinkles. There's going to be a lot of wrinkles. The good thing that the Eagles have going for them is that Jordan Davis is 500 pounds. So it's really hard to you know, run up the middle on that guy. And you know, say what you want. Last year, yeah, you couldn't throw the ball and you couldn't run the play action. But you also couldn't run the football. So if they stop the run,
he's only going to score a touchdown for us. So.
Well, yeah, Christian McCaffrey, yeah, and that was in the first quarter. So again, if you can't run the ball, look, I don't care who you are. If you're going to beat the Eagles, and I think that even the Chiefs, Andy Reid knew this. If you're going to beat the Eagles, you got to run the ball
and run whip routes.
Yeah, you got to run the ball. Huh?
I'm sure Chris McCaffrey's going to get like 25 carries.
Yeah, he's going to get 25 carries and he's going to have like 35 yards. Look, I'm sorry.
He has 3 touchdowns too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, listen, you know what? In the rain, you know, I expect him to touch the ball. I expect Swift to touch the ball. Those guys are going to get, as long as if the Eagles don't turn the ball over, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be one of those classic, just drag out games it's not going to be exciting. You know, you're not going to see a bunch of deep passes unless AJ Brown or you know, IU gets over the top. You know, but I don't see it being that game. I think I can see it being a very low scoring, fight it out, dogfight game, and you know, I think that whoever makes the mistakes loses. You know, and I just hope, and honestly, you know what? If we lose to you guys, that might be the loss that we need to keep us on track so that our head doesn't get too big. Because the reality is that you don't want to go into the postseason thinking you're better than everybody else. You know, and that's something that we beat the 49ers this week, but then we get them in the second, you know, in the division game and they beat the hell out of us. What have we have accomplished? Nothing. You know, I would rather, if I'm going to lose to the Niners, I'd rather lose now, and I'd rather have an idea what you guys are going to do, because I know you ain't going to come in here a third time and beat us.